Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of West of Dead. I played it on the Xbox One. It's also available on the PS4, Nintendo Switch, and PC. So West of Dead, I'm going to say I didn't feel the story was the strongest element. I do like the story elements in the game, and it's a fairly interesting idea, but I just didn't think it was as strong as it could have been. You play as an individual known as Mason. You are basically a spirit in purgatory, and that's where most of this is really taking place, is in purgatory, because purgatory is all jammed up for some reason. People can't go east or west, which is basically heaven or hell in this game, and it's due to this weird preacher dude who is very much in charge of like a cult thing who died, and you know, all sorts of stuff like that going on. And I will say, I do like the way the story is told, what you get of it, and I enjoy that. I just, again, it could have been a bit stronger. And it is also a difficult story to experience, and I will get into that a bit more when I get into gameplay. As for the audio, the sound effects and the music are fantastic. I really enjoy the music in this game. It's very, you know, old western kind of movie music, so it really works with the game. The sound effects are good, they're cartoony, and they work with what's there. They're not like dead-on realistic, but they fit. Now, as for the voiceover work, I'm going to start by saying I wish there was more of it. You really don't get enough voiceover work in this game, in my opinion. That being said, Ron Perlman is the voice of Mason, and he narrates the game as well, and it works so well. Ron Perlman's voice is so good for it. It adds a layer to the storytelling that is there, and it adds a layer to the character, and it helps with what's going on. Let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and it's an interesting game in that it's a twin-stick cover-based shooter with very heavy live, die, repeat, Dark Souls, you know, that get good, challenging gameplay. There's a lot of that in there, and that also comes back to bite it on its ass a bit. I'll start with the good things though, and I like the gameplay idea. I like the randomly generated maps. Each level is, you know, it's got the same title and it's got the same template, but it's laid out in a different way every time. Which is also, I guess, a bit of a negative, because there are times where that randomly generated stuff, the items, the weapons, the placement, the enemies, it's really cool that it's all done that way, but there are definitely times where luck just kicks you in the balls, which I'm going to get into that again in a minute because, you know, talking about the good things right now. There are a variety of weapons which I like, and weapons will come with different effects, like a bleeding effect, or some will have larger magazines, some will do more damage, you know, some every 5th shot will do excess damage. Cool things like that. There are all sorts of other items that will give you buffs. There are ways to upgrade in each level. There are both permanent and impermanent upgrades. The permanent ones you basically gain souls and buy, whereas the impermanent ones you get, and you get to keep as long as you are alive, but when you die, you lose them. Now let's get into the bad, and that is the die part. When you die, you lose all of your progress except for those, you know, permanent upgrades and unlocks. So your health upgrades, your damage upgrades, things like that, you lose those. And to go back into the random generated part, like, you will be repeating levels over and over because you're gonna die, and sometimes when you repeat them, it's all down to luck. Just the luck of the weapons that are dropped in the level, the luck of the upgrades that are dropped in the level, the secondary weapons, etc. And if you just get a shitty handout, then you're not gonna make it as far. I don't mind the whole live, die, repeat thing, but when there's no real checkpoint system, it gets painful. It can definitely get rage-inducing when you've made it, you know, 6, 7 levels, and then you die because of one small mistake, and voila, you're back at the very beginning. And I get it, that's the challenge, that's the point, but I'm not necessarily the best at this game, so that got very frustrating for me at times. And what I mean by it negatively affects your ability to experience the story is that when you die in chapter 2, 3, whatever, you are gameplay-wise booted back to chapter 1, level 1, and you have to work your way all the way back up there. So it just slows down your ability to progress through the story at all. That being said, I did very much enjoy playing that. I enjoyed the mechanics, I enjoyed the way it worked, I enjoyed the world being randomized. That was a lot of fun. Now, let's get into the controls. And the controls are good. I would say that, you know, this being a skill-based game, they work very well for what is there. You do have to kind of get used to them, and each gun will fire in a slightly different way than the others. They all have their own unique ticks, whether it's a revolver, a pistol, you know, rifle, or shotgun, and you've got to figure out how to control them properly. And I will say that as a skill-based game, when you die, 95% of the time, it's your own fault. You have fucked up. There are those times, though, where you're like, no, I 100% dodged that. No, this didn't work the way it should have. There are definitely a few times where the controls just didn't quite do what I needed to and I died, but it wasn't very frequent. Let's get into the graphics. I love the visuals. I really like the Old West theme of this game. I think it's a really cool way of doing it. I think it's a really cool way of imagining, like, purgatory. I think Mason is really cool with the whole poncho and flaming skull, like, Ghost Rider style thing. I thought that was an awesome way of going about it. It has a very comic book look to it, and I think that really works for the game, and I think it works with the kind of campy, cheesy storytelling style, but it all comes together. I like the world design, I like the creature design. I think just in general, visually, I think this is a really good looking game in its own unique way. So to wrap this up, the negatives I have mentioned, they are actually part of the gameplay. They're meant to be there, and so I think this game will appeal to a niche audience. Very much the kind of people who love Sekiro, Bloodborne, etc. Those get good, those really challenging games. But I will say, it can be painfully frustrating at times with the reset being so extreme. That being said, given its price tag and how much fun I actually had playing this, even when it was pissing me off, I would fully recommend this game. I do fully recommend this game. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me what is your favorite Western movie? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share, subscribe. Have a good one. Now, let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot. And this is an interesting game in that is... Oh, I didn't even get to keep those bloopers. Damn it.